In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do selective embossing with the MISTI and add just a little bit of punch to an otherwise clean and simple card. I've started by positioning my stamp on the lid of the MISTI and stamping it once on my positioning sheet so that I have a way to line it up. I stamped this repetitively in smoky slate and then colored one of the little hearts with blendabilities. But I wanted to give a little more crispness to the edge of that heart. Naturally, when you color with alcohol markers, you can have sort of a feathering out effect in such a small area. And I wanted mine to be just a tiny bit cleaner. Now, back in the old days, we used to sell this Versa marker, and I know we don't anymore, so I need you to stop yelling at me right now because I have a solution for you. I'm just going to take the lid of my Versamark pad and a tiny bit of refill, in case all of your Versa markers are dead, as most of mine are. And I'm just going to use a Stampin' Up! Blender pen to pick up some Versamark refill and put it onto my stamp. Now I'm having to figure out which heart it is. It's a little harder to think about that backwards. And then I'm just going to take a tiny bit of refill and just carefully paint that one heart with Versamark ink until it's covered. And I love Versamark because it gives you so much time to work. You don't have to rush. Now here you'll see I did not use the magnet when I lined up my card the first time. When you're using your MISTI, you definitely want to use the magnet because my card moved a little bit when I lifted up the positioning sheet. So now I'm all squared away and I can stamp that one little heart. And I decided that I wanted to add black embossing powder just to give it a super crisp edge and to match my greeting, which will also be in black, and stand out just a bit against the smoky slate. So I'm going to thump that off. And now I have a nice crisp black edge. I've cleaned up that line. And I'm going to just heat emboss it. It's such a tiny image that this doesn't take very long to finish. And you'll see that it gives it just a beautiful finished look and makes it stand out from all the other little hearts. So now you can see the outline, and it is perfect and definitely looks different from its neighbors. Now what the embossing does is it gives me a little well that I can put some dazzling details in because I can resist no glitter. So I just started it on a scrap because sometimes the first little bit that comes out is just clear. It doesn't have the glitter in there. So now I can safely put this dazzling details down and not have it look like a blob. It'll actually retain its heart shape because I've given it a little border with that black embossing that makes it so much easier to work in such a tiny area. And another thing that I like to do, especially with shapes like hearts that have a little point, you can see how sparkly and pretty that is. Sometimes they don't perfectly get into corners just because you're using a round applicator and you're working with kind of a fluid product, but you can make a perfect point just with a straight pin. You can just pull the dazzling details down into that point, and then your heart is completely perfect and you have a fun glittered jazzy accent on a clean and simple card.